Over the next few months, everyone's life will be significantly impacted by the fast change in the banking environment. As loan conditions tighten and living expenses rise, a credit crisis is already underway in 2023, and it threatens to bring many American families' quality of life to an all-time low. For American consumers, access to credit is set to become a major problem, and experts believe this is starting to resemble the financial crisis that occurred 15 years ago quite a bit. The biggest credit crisis in history occurred in 2008 as a result of the recession, which cost millions of people their jobs and devastated retirement funds. Many people were pushed into insolvency and foreclosure because they couldn't afford to pay their debts or support their families. Consumer debt stabilized between 2013 and 2019 as the economy started to grow again. But because of the epidemic, the economy was thrown for a loop, forcing more Americans to rely on credit cards to get by. Financial organizations are considerably more selective about who they will lend money to in today's world, since we are carrying much more debt than in the past, and there is a much bigger chance of widespread failures in the banking system. We may buy homes and automobiles, send our kids to college, and purchase current items that we can pay for later with the help of bank loans. The creation of debt as a result of credit extensions is the foundation of the capitalist system. Therefore, for decades, the buy now, pay later mentality of American consumers has helped households avoid making impulsive purchases, while at the same time pushing household debt to record highs every year. Data indicates that most households are nearing their financial breaking point as a result of the current mix of sustained inflation and rising interest rates, which is further squeezing consumer budgets. The amount of debt held by Americans just reached a new, unfavorable milestone last month. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York reports that credit card debt has topped $1 trillion for the first time ever. Credit card balances rose in the second quarter by $45 billion, or over 5%, to reach $1.03 trillion. That is more than 3 times the typical amount of new debt that households have accumulated during the time since the Great Recession. According to the Fed's most recent quarterly report on household debt and credit, in addition to credit cards, auto loans, and mortgages, the overall household debt level reached $17.06 trillion, a nearly 15% increase from pre-pandemic levels. This means that we have racked up roughly $1 trillion more in debt annually for the past 3 years. The reason for this is that since 2020, the cost of living has increased 4 times more quickly than income. For the past 2.5 years, households with incomes at or below the median, or roughly half of the population, have seen monthly increases in expenditure while decreasing consumption. They are now left with no choice but to use credit to pay for necessities. According to the personal finance website WalletUp, overall credit card debt increased by 8% between July 2022 and July 2023, growing for 5 straight quarters and at some of the highest rates in the past 20 years. The chief credit analyst for LendingTree, Matt Schultz, laments that things will only get worse from here. Inflation, high interest rates, and the overall cost of living in 2023 are what are causing it. The company calculates that the average family owes $10,174 in credit card debt. According to Mark Whitner, chief economist of Piedmont Crescent Capital and a former senior economist at Wells Fargo, these figures show that Americans are really suffering financially. The baseline U.S. interest rate was just above zero until March 2022. The Federal Reserve then started the most aggressive round of quantitative tightening in history. The current range of interest rates, 5.25 to 5.50%, is the highest in more than 20 years. Everyday customers are impacted by rising interest rates as they cascade from the federal funds rate to mortgage and credit card rates. In an interview with CNN, Sophia Pig, an economist with the decision intelligence firm Morning Consult, gave an explanation. Therefore, paying off debt becomes more expensive as interest rates rise, while consumers continue to accumulate debt, she explained. This combination will increase pressure on certain households with limited resources. In other words, credit card firms are able to charge high interest rates thanks to Fed regulations, which makes it even harder to pay off accounts. According to Greg McBride, an analyst for Bankrate.com, credit card interest rates are currently at a startling 20.6%, which is the highest level recorded since data collection began in 1994. Because everything is going well, people aren't financing purchases at 20%. They are acting in this manner because of their financial struggles. Budgets for most people are quite limited. We just don't know what it will look like if rates start to rise once more. That's especially alarming given that 55% of cardholders carry a balance with double-digit interest rates from month to month. Credit may no longer aid customers in maintaining healthy financial standing, but rather have the reverse impact and ensnare them in debt. In fact, 74% of Americans are anxious about their capacity to pay off their credit card debt this year, according to a Redfield and Moten Strategies study. Over the past 12 months, concerns about loan availability have gradually increased, particularly among low-income Americans and small enterprises. On the other hand, the sharp increase in loan delinquency in recent months is a huge warning sign for banks. Since 2019, more people have put off paying off their debt than ever before, according to Bankrate. This year, all loan categories, including credit cards, had an increase in the percentage of debt that became overdue or debts that had not been paid for more than 30 days. Over the previous 2 years, there has been an increase of 42.6% in the number of accounts that are past due by one cycle. While this is happening, delinquencies have risen to their highest point since 2017. The rise in the number of past due accounts is unequivocal proof that debtors are already struggling to make credit card payments. Government data reveals that in the second quarter, the transition rates into early delinquency for credit cards, auto loans, and mortgages rose once again. Mortgage default rates are at levels last seen before the 2008 housing market meltdown. The moving averages for credit card and vehicle delinquencies are at their highest levels since the first quarters of 2012 and 2018, respectively. But maybe today, more than at any time in the last several years, paying off debt and maintaining a solid credit score are crucial. That's because as banks and other financial organizations continue to tighten their lending rules, it has become far more difficult for the typical consumer to obtain a loan or be authorized for a credit card. They are flat out rejecting candidates, requiring higher minimum credit scores, increasing interest rates, and reducing credit limits. Financial analysts raised the alarm about a credit crunch back in the spring following the failure of many large banks. This word is used to describe the state of the economy when individuals and companies are unable to obtain the loans they require. According to the Fed data, large net shares of banks reported tightening requirements for credit card loans and other consumer loans during the second quarter. Data from the U.S. Federal Reserve illustrates the pattern in a different way. The rejection rate for all loans, including credit cards, mortgages, and auto loans, rose to about 22% at the end of June, the highest level in 5 years and one of the highest readings since the survey's inception in 2013. Randall Watsick, a financial advisor at Raymond James, emphasizes that the sector has less money to distribute as a result of inflation, exploding interest rate rises, and bad banking system management. When you have less money, you focus on the highest quality people you can find with the limited resources you have, he said. For instance, banks are now requesting more financial information from you than they previously would have, particularly when it comes to your salary. Given that their income is derived from self-employment, this makes it particularly difficult for gig workers and small company owners to get loans. Fico, a company that calculates credit scores, defines a good credit score as being between 670 and 739. An excellent credit score is between 740 and 799, and an outstanding score is over 800. Simply put, lenders are far less willing to work with borrowers with scores below 670, which represents around 35% of the population. Major credit card issuers, including Visa and MasterCard, said fee increases were coming in October earlier this month. The cost of credit has never been higher since the beginning of the century. Therefore, if you can manage to pay off your debt and refrain from using credit cards during the present economic crisis, it will prevent you from subsequently getting sucked into a debt cycle. If you're one of the many borrowers who are struggling financially due to the current credit crisis, get expert assistance to learn how you may recover your financial stability. In this turbulent financial landscape, your knowledge and preparedness are your best allies. Take action today to secure your financial future. Stay informed and make wise financial decisions, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.